Hey guys, we'll get started in just a few minutes. AR, why don't you try talking?
Talk. How's everyone doing tonight?
Talk a bit more, would you? I need to adjust
okay,
that.
I can talk a bit more.
Okay.
Oh, and Ian's on, so he can confirm that we're sounding okay.
Okay. Dev, talk a little bit, please.
I'm in the patron state of sleep deprivation, and I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, that looks good. And
especially
Steve.
Tonight.
7 years ago, our forefathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty.
Yeah, I can't top that.
That's the show. Good night, everybody.
And we're out.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, we'll give it a minute before we start. Since we did say 7:45, give people another minute or so.
But do they deserve that minute?
I mean, historically, probably not. Okay, everyone ready to go?
Yep.
Yaz.
Woohoo!
Welcome to the Thrill Podcast. We're here to entertain and inform a bit while talking about Digimon. I'm Mark, running with the will.
I'm AR Oliver, Digimon System Restore.
DevQ, and I'm admin on Wikimon.
And it's our 100th episode, and we have no show to talk about because that's amazing timing for lining up.
It picked a very convenient week to
take
a night off.
Yeah, and we have a special guest this week who can go ahead and introduce themselves.
I am more Digimon than you will ever meet in an entire lifetime.
Yes, we have Mr. Derek Stephen Prince with us, who the voice of far too many Digimon characters. just putting together the list of just the main characters took a good few minutes. So for people who know the voice but not the name, we'll go through the main characters, but not everyone because we only have an hour or so. So you started off as DemiDevimon on Adventure, correct? I believe your mic cut out right there. Try again.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
there we go.
correct.
Yeah, and then Piedmon, who very
Actually, no.
oh, let's see.
Before Piedmon was Digitamamon.
Yes,
Oh yeah.
the Eggman himself. I always
The
forget because
Eggman himself.
that's
See,
a
Mark, this
that
is why you should have the Wikimon article pulled up ahead
no,
of
the
time.
Wikimon article removed a bunch of the voices the other day right after we announced we were having him.
Oh, did they really?
Yes,
Oh,
and then
I
an,
have to taser whoever did
and
that.
then and then another article
What?
had a voice that was wrong because
Oh,
it said you were Mojimon in episode 9, and that's far before DemiDevimon ever showed up, and I'm pretty sure that was the first voice you did for the show.
yeah, I don't even recall Mojimon.
He'd be like the not snowman,
No.
the Yeti.
Yeah, he's
The
a
Yeti.
Yeti.
Yeah.
Hmm.
With the
Yeah, no, I believe that was. Well, I could be wrong, but I believe that was Michael Surich.
I think so. I don't even
It-
remember if he talked.
with that in that time period of the show, guessing Michael Sorge is always a pretty safe.
Yes.
Like you're probably
Yeah.
going to be 50-50 just taking a stab in the dark.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after Adventure, 02s were like you kind of are half the cast almost. So
Yeah. Yeah.
your
Talk about
Veemon
talking
and
to yourself.
your Veemon and all of his natural evolutions, you weren't
Yes.
the armor ones, as I recall.
No.
And probably most people would know you as Ken / the Digimon Emperor.
Correct.
Yeah. And then you keep getting like the most like Hamer's your Impmon and Beelzemon, which
Mhm.
everyone loves those. Everyone hears the Joe Pesci Impmon, I think, and just loves it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then in Frontier, you only played, well, as far as main characters go, villains, I believe, for Frontier.
Yes.
Um, Grumblemon
Typecasting.
Rumblemon
and
I can't remember
Dynasmon.
the other one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
And then you came back for Fusion as Jeremy, going back to not quite a Kenish role, but a very bubbly, energetic character.
Yes.
Yeah. And then last year, we all got the fun surprise of you coming back as Veemon and Ken in Kazuna.
Right. Also in Fusion, I believe it was technically called season, because the first part of Fusion was season 7. Is that right?
I think
Well,
everyone's given up on numbering
Yeah,
because of
we,
how
we, we've
confusing
stopped
it's
trying to
gotten.
figure out
Maybe
how
it
the
was
seasons are
6.
divided in
But anyway,
Fusion.
yeah. The second part of Fusion, I also played Zailzamon.
Yeah. And then and we didn't even get into the secondary characters because there's just too many of
Oh
them.
yeah. Yeah.
Like
yeah,
I
yeah.
think in Fusion, I think it's 10 or 12 characters maybe.
I
It's
don't know.
some
Goodness.
cartoonish number.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have a very long association with Digimon, and fans are always very happy to hear from you.
Yeah.
So I guess if people prior to Digimon, I guess where did you start off acting? What started that for you?
Like just acting in general.
Well, what made you decide that was not even voice acting, just that acting was
Yeah.
the type of thing you want to try out to learn to
I
figure out?
don't know that I really had another option. Well, I did. I mean, I had tons of options, but I mean, as far back as I can remember, just like ever since I was like 8 or 9 years old, even probably before then, um, I'd always been doing stuff as far as acting goes, mostly on stage or stage stuff, and a lot of that I can contribute to probably mostly my dad, but my mom as well, because they were both performers, stage performers. And my great uncle was an inspiration as well. I only met him a couple of times because he was much older than I was, but he was the very first actor to portray Pinocchio on stage back in the 1920s during the Great Depression. And that was always an inspiration to me. My grandmother and my great aunt were also an inspiration to me as well, because they were all performers. I have a lot of entertainers in on my dad's side of the family that just all kind of helped pave the way. And I think it just, because of all of the stuff that I was affected by as a kid, it just, you know, kind of came naturally to me when I started doing it myself. And I mean, the first thing I remember ever doing as a quote unquote actor, if you can even call me that back then, when I was like 8 or 9 years old, was writing pretty much a one man show, but there were other, you know, miscellaneous characters in there. But it was like for the school play for a Christmas performance, and it was like what happened to the missing Rudolph or something like that. And of course I was Rudolph, you know, and I wrote it and started it, and it was that's probably the very, very first thing that I can ever remember doing. When I grew up, my dad introduced me to a lot of actors, like character actors from the 40s and 50s, like Humphrey Bogart and Peter Lorre and James Cagney and Sidney Greenstreet. And I mean, you know, the list goes on and on and on and on. And at a very early age, I started, you know, listening to how some of those actors spoke and, you know, their use of language. And I think that eventually just helped me later on, especially when it came to the first season of Digimon, because 3 characters were all based on real people, you know. The DemiDevimon, not so much. He was more of just like, you know, a little jokester New Yorker type of person. But I mean, if you look at Digitamamon, that's, you know, a cut of Peter Lorre, and Piedmon was a direct, you know, replica of Frankenfurter from Rocky Horror Picture Show. And it was, I never thought of myself as a voice actor necessarily. I mean, you know, because when I went in high school as well as in college, you know, my main thing was musical theater, and that's what I graduated with a BFA from Carnegie Mellon in. But it you know, it's just always been inherently a part of my lifeblood, so to speak. And voice acting just happened to come about because when I was here in California and things were not going quite the way that I thought they would, because the representation that I had at the time wasn't really pushing me to be in a bunch of stuff that I had started getting into. I started going on this upscale for on-camera acting. I was in, you know, ER and Saved by the Bell, the New Class, and a couple of other things and some movies and stuff. And then it just kind of went crash. And that was primarily because my agent got out of the business, and I didn't know what to do at that point. And so I started, you know, taking some classes just so that I could keep relevant with what was going on around me. And those classes that I took, which I was able to take, thank goodness, at the time for free from the Screen Actors Guild. And one of the classes that I took was Introduction to Voiceover, and Bob Bergen was the teacher on it. If any of you guys don't know who Bob Bergen is, he's the current actor for Porky Pig and Tweety Bird for the Warner Brothers Looney Tunes. So, yeah, and so that was the very first voiceover class that I took from Bob, and he introduced me to some other people who I took classes from as well, Sue Blue and Charlie Adler, and goodness, just a whole bunch of people, and then it came time for me to kind of take my wings and fly. And my very first job that I ever got, which eventually led to Digimon, was Power Rangers Zeo, I think, was my very first voiceover job.
Yeah, I believe so. Although I think most people probably know you as Elgar, actually.
Most know me as Elgar, yeah,
Yeah.
which was the season after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Zeo is where I got my start as. I can't remember the characters that I did in that, but
I don't remember
There's so many.
I don't remember the monsters,
Ulrich
but
the,
I think you played
Ulrich the
Auric.
Conqueror.
Yeah.
Ulrich the Conqueror. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was an interesting guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned Bob Bergen. It's amazing how often he comes up in stories from actors about him popping up to just show people the way almost.
Yeah.
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 And you moved from Power Rangers to Digimon with DemiDevimon. My understanding is this, you didn't even try out.
No, I did. I auditioned for both seasons 1 and seasons 2.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah. And season 1 was mostly smaller stuff. With season 2, did they originally intend for you to have 2 large roles, or did that just sort of
No.
accidentally happen?
It very much was not what they were thinking of doing. What happened was, because they knew me as a character actor because of some other shows that I had worked on with them prior to Digimon, they immediately thought of me for Veemon. And I was kind of like, that was my shoe-in, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we're going to give it to you probably, but we need you to audition just because you have to audition for it. Because because of the rules and regulations with the union and all that stuff. And that was pretty much it. I mean, I came early. I looked at the sides that were on the table. I saw Veemon. I read it. I went over it a couple of times so I know exactly what I was going to do. And then I saw some of the other characters that were there, and the two other characters that I had in my hand, besides Veemon, were Davis and the Digimon Emperor. And during that time, per SAG regulations, you had 15 minutes to be able to audition. And whatever you do in that time frame is your time. So if you want to like try something a different way, then you could do that. And I only did Veemon one way, and they just fell in love with it. And they said, we don't need to hear anything else. That's great. Thank you very much. We'll let you know. And I was almost out the door. I think I don't remember exactly what happened, but I think my hand was like almost on the doorknob or something. And I stopped myself because I had these two other sides of my hand, and me being the very self-conscious actor that I was at the time, it's like, do I do this? Do I do this? Do I not do this? And it's like, and I came back to the microphone, which they weren't expecting. And I go, hey guys, I've got these two other sides in my hand, and I was hoping that maybe I might be able to audition for these other characters too. And they go, well, you don't have much time. We've only got maybe about 7 minutes left. What were you thinking of doing? I was going, well, I've got Davis and I've got the Digimon Emperor. And they go, oh. Well, we were kind of looking at, some other people for those roles, and I'm going, yeah, I get it, but I'd really like to have a shot at it if it's okay. And they go, well, you're probably not going to be able to audition for both, so you're going to have to pick one. And so I thought, all right, well, I didn't resonate as much with Davis as I did with the Digimon Emperor, so I put the sides for Davis down, and I was looking at the Digimon Emperor, and I go, okay, well, I think I would like to audition for the Digimon Emperor. And I kid you not, on the other side of the pane of glass, which you could only, hear what people are saying if they actually push the talk button on their microphones while they're talking to you. right? Otherwise, you can't hear what they're saying. You can only see what they're doing.
Yeah.
And as soon as I said that, I kid you not, it's like it was almost like dead silence. And then there was like, without them pushing the talk button, you could see them physically laughing. Like, you've got to be kidding me.
That's an interesting reaction to see.
Right? And it's like, thanks for making me feel even more comfortable with the choice that I just made to audition for you. And so they go, well, okay, let's see what you got. And with that, you know, it was still my time, and I just, you know, turned off whatever negative stuff was going on inside of my head. And I took a second and took a deep breath, and then I just started. And I think the clips that they had for the audition was from the very first episode, from the second episode where he's talking. Was it the second episode where he captures the kids and is talking to Davis and Veemon?
I
Yeah,
don't
that's
remember.
the second episode.
Yeah, I don't even.
Yeah.
I don't remember either, but there was a clip from that, and then there was another clip, so that you can see like these different sides of the Digimon Emperor. And I think what they were initially looking for was somebody who was already established, who they knew could be a good bad guy, because there was a lot riding on this character's shoulders. What they weren't expecting, obviously, was me. And as soon as I was done with the audition, I kid you not, almost the exact same thing happened. But this time, when there was dead silence, it was like deer in headlights looks. Like, what did I just witness? And whoever had the microphone pushed the talkback and goes, wow. Okay. That was unexpected. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. We'll be in touch. And that was it. And that's the only reason why I got both, because I just decided to, you know,
Throw it out there.
throw it out there. Yeah.
Just go for it.
When you got that, when you auditioned for Ken, did you either you or the directors have any inkling of where the direction of that character was going to go, because
Not
it was
at all.
primarily the Emperor at the time?
And that's a great question. At that time, my understanding, if I'm remembering this correctly, is that because they got episodes by reel, like tape reel, you know, they had to ship them from Japan to America. And I believe they could only ship so many episodes at a time. So I think the only thing that they had, and nobody ever did research, you know, I mean, it's like, okay, we got a show. Great. Fantastic. You know, but I think the most episodes that they had at any one given time was maybe 6 or 7 episodes. And that's it. So nobody knew the arc of the whole story. But they just knew all they knew is that they knew that this kid was appearing in every single episode, and he was not nice. He was like a bad kid, and it's like, we got to get somebody good for this.
And I suppose it's also
It's like, we need the perfect puppy kicker.
Yeah, that's right. And I suppose it's also worth pointing out that at the time, the turnaround between episodes airing in Japan and English was extremely fast for 02.
Yeah, I believe by the end they weren't even 2 months apart.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
The first episode was April in Japan, August in US.
Yeah. Which is that, when you think about it, at that time period, that was amazing.
Yeah, that was pretty much unheard of at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was used to waiting like sometimes years for series to come over and be localized.
Yeah.
And were they still editing on tape then?
Well, I'm sorry?
Were they still editing on tape then?
Oh, very much so. Very much so. Yes. Wow. Yes. This was before beeps, y'all.
I forgot that beeps didn't exist, actually.
Yeah. This was actually what happened during the middle of this series is when beeps actually started.
Huh. I did not know that.
So the beginning of the series, there were no beeps, and then we got introduced to beeps in the middle of the series. I was like, what is this? What am I doing? What is going on?
Wow,
how does this system work?
I know they're supposed to help, but did that throw you off at all?
Oh yeah, totally. It's like, why do I have these things in my ears? What is this thing? This beeping? I don't get this. It's crazy.
Wow, that's the great into actually wondering if there's any functional acting differences for you between seasons. That they actually introduced beeps in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, I could be completely wrong in my recollection. You know, it may have not started until Tamers, but I believe it started in season 2. I could be wrong.
Huh.
But we did definitely have some weird stuff happen in that season that was not expected. Whether the introduction of the beeps happened or not. And that was in the middle of the series, there was actually a flood in Saban's building. And it forced them to have to go outside of the studio that we normally recorded in and record part of the series in another facility, which was very unfamiliar, very not home-like. It was really awkward. We were working with people we didn't know, and it was just it was kind of like trying to put on a suit that didn't really fit you.
Huh.
Yeah, it just kind of throws off your rhythm.
It did. But by the same token, it's interesting when you look back on it, because had that not happened, I don't know that we would have gotten where we had gotten to in the one episode in the desert. That may not have happened the way that it did had we not had those outside layers that were kind of affecting us. Because I was so annoyed with what I was dealing with. And it's like we were dealing with this one episode and I was uncomfortable, which I think helped in the uncomfortableness of the whole episode itself when he realizes, how bad he was and that he needs to try and figure things out by himself. And of course, Wormmon and all that. And I kid you not, like what you guys heard in that episode was only recorded once for that particular.
That is amazing.
That may have that may have just explained a long-standing thing that no one ever had an answer to.
Yeah, there was no way we could the second time.
Yeah,
and even if we did, I wouldn't have been able to recreate what you actually heard. And that wasn't me acting, that was me like crying as Ken when everything, got destroyed.
That may actually explain the mystery of the one episode where a few actors were randomly swapped out and no one knows why.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
It's possible.
And so how did that compare with and we as fans don't actually know if there was any functional change for you guys when towards the end of Tamers, the beginning of Frontier, when Saban went away and it became Sensation Animation, were there changes for you as an actor? Or was it just the same building and they changed the door? Or did everything change from your perspective?
Oh, yeah, no, we changed locations for Frontier. We weren't in Saban anymore.
Yeah, that's yeah.
We had moved everything over to Burbank at that point. I don't know if that's when Studiopolis started taking over or not. I don't remember. like if they had something to do with that other studio.
I don't think we know. I think we know the name on the door was Sensation Animation, but I don't think it's ever been at least clear to us if it was like a real company, if it was just a name on a door for someone else doing it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and then so Frontier had you just playing villains, which was a bit different. I mean, Adventure, Digimon was kind of a nice guy, more or less, but Frontier,
Actually,
you're mostly.
Before you get into Frontier, I wanted to stick with 02 for a second because I did want to have you talk about Veemon for a second, because I did know that that trademark lisp of Veemon wasn't just arbitrary.
No.
Like, that was something that you kind of developed based on his appearance.
Yes. Yeah. So when I saw the copy for Veemon, and I didn't know very much about the character, but I saw, what the character looked like, and I noticed that, the big things about him were his head was almost the same size of his body. That he had the fangs, and that's all that he had, and his mouth and a tongue. And I think the picture that I saw of him was like him smiling, so you could see his fangs and his mouth and how wide it is and all that stuff. And it was a very conscious choice that I made, but it was also a very I didn't want to necessarily be, with the network in a way where it's like they would take offense to what I was doing. I wasn't trying to make fun of people who had a speech impediment. So I tried to tone it down in such a way where you could tell that, obviously, depending on which words that he used, that, certain words just came out a certain way because that's how his mouth is. And that was just a thing. And I think that because I thought outside of the box in that respect, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't remember, but I think, I wasn't the only actor there. There were some other actors that were there as well, that were just kind of walking through the halls and just kind of practicing their characters and stuff. And I think there were a couple of other people that were auditioning for Veemon as well. There had to have been. But I noticed that nobody was really taking that particular thing into account. And I said, okay, well then, that's what I'm going to focus on and make sure that I get that apart. And I think with just the dialogue that they were able to lift from, the episodes that they had, and the fact that he is supposed to be a leader in terms of Digimon, and that he's just energetic all the time, like he's on caffeine, that you combine all of those, and I don't know, it's just like everything just kind of like fit together after what I thought about. And yeah, so that the lisp, which was intentional but not to the point where it would make fun of people, was very much, a thing that I added, which I think is what kind of just helped me get in.
Yeah. And it adds so much. Those sort of little vocal ticks is what really makes, dubbing so much fun, especially with the Digimon characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes the character more memorable.
Yeah, it does. I'm not trying to toot my horn or anything, but I mean, I've been a part of fan groups that, have talked about different Digimon and ones that they remember. And even though I would agree that, he doesn't have the best evolutions per se in terms of what he becomes eventually, I think as the rookie Digimon that he is when he's in his natural state, was probably one of the more memorable Digimon from all the seasons.
I think everyone. I think nowadays almost any form of Veemon's considered like a very high interest to everyone.
Really?
Yeah, Imperial Dramon is one of the more popular Digimon on the roster currently.
You have to think about this, guys, and I know it's hard to with everything that we are used to seeing nowadays, but I gotta say, damn, like the graphics that they introduced in that season, once he digivolved into Piedmon and Imperial Dramon, that was not like just commonplace stuff that was happening.
No, that was very rare.
Piedmon was always
with that
one
stuff.
of my favorite sequences.
Yeah, and
I mean,
that sequence is still considered quite memorable. Fans actually voted for it high enough that it got a card in the new card game where they just literally they just took a frame from the show and slapped it on the card, and that's what people wanted from it.
That's right.
Yeah, and we don't want to forget about poor Impmon. Impmon, everyone loves Impmon, but it feels like there's everyone recognizes the voice for Impmon.
Yes, very much on purpose. Very much on purpose. Yeah, there was no hiding that.
Yeah.
It was just a slap. Like, this is Joe Pesci. You guys are watching Joe Pesci in a purple Digimon, body. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Gremlin Joe Pesci.
Yeah. And I don't remember how he ended up because I just don't have the voice in my head, but I believe Beelzemon started as Stallone.
Yes. So the story the story behind that is in Digimon Rumble Arena, which was the game that preceded Digimon Tamers. As far as recording goes, whether it came out before Tamers, I don't know. I didn't follow that. But as far as recording goes, right? What had happened was in that season, I was not asked to audition. Mary Elizabeth, who was the established director at that point, and I think Paul DeFranco, who was also the voice casting director, they just decided it's like, hey, we got this one Digimon that we think you'd be right for. Do you want to do it? Going, sure. So I already knew for both of those characters, there was Impmon and then there was Beelzemon. For Impmon, we just went with Joe Pesci. And for Beelzemon, in the Rumble Arena version, I said to Mary, it's like, you know what? The way that this character is described and the way he kind of comes off as like a badass character, why don't we do just like a version of like Rocky? And she goes, oh my God, that's amazing. Do it. So we did it and we recorded it that way. And now it comes time for the season. And, whenever a season starts recording, after they've gotten all of the, you guys still there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Sorry, I dropped a picture of that card in the chat. You can look at that later.
So once the season, anytime a season starts recording, after they've already done the pre-production stuff, and now we're into, laying down the tracks and all that stuff, they had to post it on Hollywood Reporter. It was just a thing that they had to do at that time. And so the stuff comes out, and of course, I think it was Paramount who's responsible for the Rocky franchise. I can't remember. It was either Paramount or it was either Paramount or some other studio. But anyway, so the studio catches wind of it. This is only what I was told. I don't know the entire story. This is what I remember being told by Mary, is that, so the studio calls Fox and studio says, so we understand that you guys are starting this new series, Digimon Tamers, which has some of the characters from the game that you guys did for Rumble Arena. We're going to have to request that Sylvester Stallone does not appear in Tamers. And they're going, what? Yeah, it's like Sylvester Stallone has a 8 picture deal for Rocky or whatever, however many it is, and it's like, we cannot have him being associated with the Digimon franchise. So I'm sorry, you're going to have to get somebody else to do the character. And of course, the studio is just kind of listening to them as they're going off on this little frantic rant of theirs. And they're going, I'm sorry, but Sylvester Stallone is not, nor ever has been, in the series. That was Derek Stephen Prince. And they said, oh, well, in that case, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to choose a different voice for the character.
Oh my.
That's how it started. And so I had to evolve the voice from Rocky, Sylvester Stallone, into what he then became, which was more of just like this hard rockin' Digimon guy that, you know, from New York. Or not even, I don't think, you guys are going to have to remind me because I'm watching the show currently, but we're only on episode 12 now. Did Beelzemon have a New Yorkish voice?
I don't have any memory of his voice, to be honest. I just always remember Impmon whenever I think of the character.
Yeah. Also, I really hope they don't find out that Data Squad has a boxing episode with a trainer named Rocky in it.
Yeah, and Impmon's a large favorite among fans. Beelzemon also. I just don't have any memory of the voice. It's just always Joe Pesci.
Huh.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
And later on, when Impmon gets some pretty dramatic scenes, is it difficult to, you know, put your acting to channel your acting through a Joe Pesci impersonation?
I think the voice is just, and if you ask any voice actor this, you know, obviously, first and foremost, we are actors. The voice just happens to be what we're channeling.
Right.
For you guys to be able to, you know, catch a glimpse of that particular actor. I think with any good actor, the voice is not necessarily a hindrance. It's an it's a what's the right word for it? It's an attribute that just goes along with whatever that character happens to be going through at the time. And they just happen to have that particular voice, you know, that goes along with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I never really, yeah. And to be honest with you, I mean, I don't remember a great majority of Tamers. I remember, you know, little pieces here and there. And as we're watching it and going through it, things are kind of coming back to me. I'm going, oh yeah, I kind of remember doing that.
Well, it has been like a solid 20 years at this
It has been. It's a solid
and
20 years.
Impmon is also very much kind of in his own world in Tamers.
Yeah. He's kind of an a-hole too.
Yeah.
Precious.
And that's a great segue into Grumblemon, who is kind of a little jerk. It works for him, I think.
Yeah. And Grumblemon, in case I don't know how many of you guys would know this particular character actor, but Jimmy Durante.
That is Jimmy Durante. Okay.
Yeah. The nose. The nose.
Yep. Yes, and it was the nose that kind of made me think of that.
Yeah.
To be honest,
I don't think I've ever actually seen Jimmy Durante, anything Jimmy Durante's been in, but I've heard so many impressions of him.
Yeah.
That he is kind of associated.
I mean, fun fact: Lion King. Timon. No, wait. Who is the warthog?
Pumbaa.
Pumbaa.
That was Jimmy Durante.
Oh, really? I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Well, and then it's an impersonation, but
yeah. I mean, it's a spin on Jimmy Durante, but you know.
Yeah, I can't remember that actor's name, but yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I can hear that. Yeah.
It was Nathan. Was it Nathan Lane?
No, that was
Timon.
That was Timon, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I only remember that because I watched The Birdcage a lot.
Yeah, and then Dynasmon is one of the rare villains in Digimon who kind of just got to beat up on the good guys just over and over.
I don't remember Dynasmon at all.
I don't remember
like in Jesse and James.
Like in my head, I don't remember his voice. I just remember him just always showing up and beating them up, and then like
he's just really loud.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he's just really loud and antagonistic.
Yeah, and And then a few years later, you got to come back as Ken and Impmon for when they went back to do the other movies.
Yep.
Which by that point, it was all Studiopolis, and
right.
Just interesting to see the characters come back and sound the same and have the energy behind them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Impmon had his little moments and had some neat moments. And then you vanished for a bit, and then you came back as Jeremy in Fusion, which everyone was very excited about that one.
Were
For
they?
you to come back. Oh yeah, people were very happy with the cat. Some of the cast was very new. Some of the cast was very old. There were a number of returning actors, yourself included, that people were very happy just to see the name be there again.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. That's good to hear.
Yeah, and you also came back for the game that was done in the middle of that, where you played Veemon again.
Yes, that was fun. That was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
All-Star
All-Star Rumble,
All-Star
I
Rumble?
believe was the
All-Star
yeah.
Rumble, yeah.
Yeah. And then things went quiet with Digimon with you for a while, and although you did pop up at that convention panel they recorded, which everyone always gets. And then when they announced the cast of Kizuna last year, you were one of the people who came back as Ken and Veemon, and everyone was very excited about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess the question is in the sense of someone like Ken for that, how does it play different when you don't have the evil stuff to springboard off anymore, and they redesigned him to kind of be nicer looking, I guess would be the way to put it? Does that change anything for you?
Yuppie. No, I mean, the great thing about season 2 was that because I got to spend so much time with the character and his evolution, you know, where he wound up towards the end, um, I mean, just kind of segued into it because, you know, they're all in college, so to speak, or at least close to being in college. Um, and obviously, you know, a few years have passed since that season. But as far as him being more, you know, of a team and relying on friends and trying to figure things out, you know, he still had, you know, the smarts and was kind of like a detective in a way, so to speak. So it was cool. I mean, I wish I understand where they were going with that particular movie. It was not about the season 2 kids, but obviously the fans wanted to make sure that, you know, the storytellers wanted to make sure that the fans had a chance to see both, you know, the season 1 and the season 2 kids. But obviously we all know, I mean, that story is much more about Matt and Ty than anything, and their friendship and things coming to an end, and, you know, things happen the way that they did. But having those kids as kind of like a backup support system, I think was something the fans had been looking for, especially during the Tri movies, which they didn't get. And at least this time, you know, it's like a way for them to kind of reconnect with the characters that they've grown up with. And I it really wasn't that hard of a transition. I mean, the writing was still very good. The patter between him and Davis, and you know, so it was great. And this was what I liked about this, which was cool, is that when I when we recorded that, which I can't remember when that was, but it was right before the pandemic hit. So we for a couple of years now on my Twitch channel, we'd been watching with the fans all of the seasons as they come up for their 20th anniversary. So I was already very much aware, because we had just finished with season 1, right? Digimon Adventure 1. And then we go into last year when we did the recording for the movie. And it's like I was kind of a fan in a way, only because I thought Matt was one of the cooler kids. Everybody else did as well. But it's like, oh my God, I actually get to talk to Matt in the movie. This is amazing. Because they never talked at all in the series.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. I don't think they ever did.
Not once.
No.
I think they just stood generally in the same room at some point in time.
Right. I mean, but having a conversation, and having it be, kind of a little bit in the way helping the story along never happened. And it's like, oh my God, this is great. I get to talk about.
Yeah, and before we hop into some quick questions that were sent in and also from the chat, thought I'd go ahead and ask two myself.
Sure.
I guess first one is when looking stuff up, I found an old interview with you when you mentioned that at the time you would most wish you'd been able to play Mummymon if you're able to pick someone you hadn't played. Is that would that still be the answer now, or is there someone different that you wish you would have been able to play?
In season 1?
Any season.
Anything.
Yeah, anything.
I'm oh dear. Yes, my answer would definitely change now. I understand the reasoning behind it, but it still doesn't make it okay when they started Zeros Wars and they went in a different direction for casting when Beelzemon came back.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that one makes sense.
That is the only character I know of where on purpose, not on accident, not because like something happened and an actor couldn't make it, so they had to replace, a couple of lines with another actor that had to step in. I'm talking about completely different actors, 3 different seasons, same character.
Yeah, for some reason that never quite crossed my mind at the time. I'm trying to think if Tom Fawn showed up in Data Squad at all, because he wasn't Agumon there, actually. I don't even remember if he showed up there at all.
No, I don't think so.
Huh.
Yeah, Kyle, I think, took over in Zeros Wars.
No, not for Beelzemon. Beelzemon, I think, in Cross Wars was Matt Mercer, actually.
Oh, was it Matt?
Yeah. So we have to be really careful before criticizing too much, or we'll get the critical
role. No, I'm not criticizing at all.
I remember Kyle was Beelzemon in the Data Squad game, I think.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
But
then Beelzemon also came back in Fusion, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, I think I think AR's right, and that was Matt Mercer. That
was Matt Mercer, yeah. And Cross Wars and Fusion are the same thing.
And I love both of those actors. I have nothing against them. I never
we know
their versions of Beelzemon, so I have nothing against their performances either. I just don't understand why they did what they did.
Yeah, it's hard to get into that without knowing the number of people who probably had something as a decision. It's hard to know. Yeah. And I guess on top of that, how does it feel that Digimon just kind of keeps popping back up every few years, and that fans seem to want you to keep coming back in it?
I consider that to be one of the most awesome things that I've ever heard. Actually, you're the first person that's actually said that. So,
it comes up a lot.
It is, and it was such a cool feeling, watching Fusion for the first time, to have you and Colleen O'Shaughnessy and Melissa Fahn, and just having some familiar voices in that new series was just really fun to hear.
It's like, oh damn, it's them! It's them!
Yes.
Yeah.
It's our old friends coming back,
right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Who knows what's going to happen? I mean, I've heard rumors, whether they're actually going to become true or not, I don't know. But obviously there's I think an equal number of fans who love as well as not like the reboot for 01. But who knows?
Yeah. And then with the small bit of time left, we'll go through some of the questions people tossed in, and you can just answer them at will.
Yeah.
Someone wants to know, when this is kind of close to what I had said, but I guess a bit different. Do you keep an eye on Digimon stuff, or do you mostly hear about it when fans go, "Oh, Ken's popping up in the new movie"?
I hear about it from fans.
Okay.
Specifically, I won't mention names, but I specifically hear about it from fans who watch out for me. Like before I even knew about the movie, it's like, you do know this is coming up and your character's in it, and what are you doing about it?
Okay.
Be
It's
there
like,
or be
well,
square.
Yeah.
I don't have
That's-
control over casting, but
Basically how Joshua said ended up in Try.
Yes.
So.
yeah,
And then Kim wants to know what's been your greatest obstacle as an actor that you've been able to overcome.
just as an actor in general.
Yes.
My greatest obstacle as an actor. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. That I'm good. No, I mean
No,
seriously.
no. I
We get it.
100%
Yeah,
understand that. Yeah.
I've always been extremely self-conscious as an actor.
Yeah.
And it's like even watching some of the stuff that I'm watching with the fans now, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I actually did that. That's really good. Um, and I don't know where that comes from or why that is so ingrained in me as a person. I mean, I'm definitely tons more confident than I was when I first started 25 years ago, but you know, still to this day, it's like, there's so many other things that are constantly present, like, the amount of voice actors that are out there now who actually can record something at their fingertips in their closet and, get a job by offering less money than what we as established actors are asking for, as well as, not even getting a glimpse of a potential project because they already have a name person in mind that they're going to hire for it. So it's like we don't even have a chance. And it's just become more and more prevalent as the years have gone on, how I wouldn't say dwindling the work is, but it's just that much more competition.
Yeah. And then Golden Fate wants to know that in Digimon you've played a lot of heroes and villains. Which is more fun for you?
I'm gonna kind of answer that in a roundabout way, but straightforward way. I think the two characters that have always stuck out with me the most throughout my entire Digimon career franchise have been characters that you can't pinpoint because of their backstories. So characters like Ken, Digimon Emperor, characters like Impmon, that have this backstory to them, and it's like you want to hate them, but you love them at the same time, depending on which part of the story that you're in.
Yeah.
And for an actor, that's just so rewarding to be able to bring that kind of character to life, and have the fans latch on to that type of character, not only because of the way it was written, but because what I was able to bring to the character with the help of Mary, who directed me in both of those. So.
And actually, regarding Ken, Ian had asked, when you do panels, you introduce your characters as Digimon Emperor, and he was wondering if that was something you purposely did, and if so, he was kind of curious why, based on Ken's overall growth and how he kind of sheds that and attempts to get past it.
That's an interesting question. I think whenever I've been at conventions, I always introduce it as Digimon Emperor first and foremost, because even though he does become better in the second half of the season, the stuff that he did was just so bad.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the series, that's what people remember the most, like the dog kicking.
Yeah, that's one that everyone remembers.
You know, it's like you don't forget stuff like that. And especially when I can only imagine for the fans when they were watching this for the first time and, you know, sitting in front of their television sets, waiting for the next episode to come up. And then it's like you see stuff like what the Digimon Emperor did. And it's like, you would never think of doing that as a kid, but this kid did it and he got away with it. And nobody's stopping him. And it's like, you know, but it's like at the same time, wow, that's cool.
I admit it was really cool, and when I was 12 years old, I kind of borrowed my great-grandmother's whip that she got on a tourist trip from Spain and tried to use it.
Yeah.
You're a role model to the children everywhere.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so I think that's why it's. I mean, you know, they're both. It's the same person, but I just think that, you know,
more memorable, I guess, is the way to put it.
Much more memorable.
Yeah.
Also, it's who you were cast
is the
as.
bad stuff that he did than the good stuff that he did.
Yeah. And
that
then
and much better fashion sense.
Yes. Yes.
He has a cape.
Yeah.
And then multiple people sent in some variation of, do you have any merchandise of your Digimon characters?
Oh yeah, totally. Okay, so on my Facebook fan page, which this is going to sound redundant, but I did it intentionally. So it's DSPS. Literally.
We'll throw a link to that up. We'll throw a link to that up in the notes.
Yeah, DSPS. So Derek, Stephen, Prince, and then a small s, and then DSNPS. I forget what the DSNPS stands for, but it's something like dedication, signature,
dedication,
prints,
signatures, and products.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So anyway, on there, and for each season, I've commissioned a different artist for the characters that I specifically did in that season for the 20th anniversary. So you can get a print of, you know, the three characters from season 1, all the variations of Veemon plus, you know, Ken and the Digimon Emperor from season 2, and then for season 3, Impmon and Beelzemon.
Shut up and take my money.
I mean, that's not hard to take your money, though, Dev.
And they're really, really good. I'm very proud of the work that came out of all three of those different prints.
Okay, and then we have just 2 left. Kona Koneko want to know, what has been your favorite fan interaction?
My favorite fan interaction. Ooh. Wow. I mean, there's been so many.
You've been at this for a while.
Yeah. The magic answer is whichever one any fan out there remembers.
I think one that really sticks with me, and it's kind of an ongoing thing. It's one of those fan interactions that hasn't stopped yet, because of the friendship that I developed with this particular person. But I met this person a couple of years ago, and they were going through a transition, gender, you know, in terms of being gender fluid and transitioning from one gender to the other. And I don't remember who contacted who first. I think they may have contacted me first. Or I guess it's okay to say he now. He contacted me first. And, you know, we just started talking about just everything, voiceover wise, and stuff that he in particular really liked. And I had the opportunity to meet him. a couple of years ago when we were still doing conventions, and he was still transitioning at that point in time. But because of my interaction with him, as well as one of my dearest friends, who, thank goodness, is also now getting an operation, Aubrey Allen, who I met a few years back, and was very big in the convention circuit for the Midwest and part of the East Coast. I did a particular special show on my Twitch channel, which I used to do, called Chill Talk and Taco Tuesdays. And Aubrey and I were talking about it, and we were talking about, the challenges that she was going through in becoming who she was. And Joey, I begged Joey to be a part of that, because it's like you can't stop whatever you believe in. Don't let the people just bring you down. It's like there is a way for you to get this done. Maybe Aubrey can give you some ideas. And Aubrey and Joey became friends, which was amazing, and helping each other out. And Joey finally got an operation, so now he's great, and I love him. Just because of the person that he is, and his heart and his spirit. But it was one of those things that it's like, had I not done the stuff that I had done, and had both of those individuals not seen the stuff that I had in, would all three of us had ever connected or not? I don't know. But the fact that we did was just amazing. In the simple fact that